Hello, Hockey World. How are you doing today? We're going to get into a really fun topic today about the USA Olympic hockey team. But first, this.
Let's talk a minute about the future of touring, music touring, because right now it's obliterated. And I didn't get the name of it, but one of the big tour guys actually is worried about that industry, and I don't blame him, because first thing is people are really ticked off at Ticketmaster, like with the whole refunding policy and everything, really shady, right? And then some tours did the right thing, like Bon Jovi was able to just cancel his whole tour, so that basically gave people their money back, and that's great. And then there's other tours that are literally waiting till the last possible second, and I get it. There's all kinds of things that were bought. There's losses, whatever. But at the end of the day, though, based on the fact that we're probably going to still be in this situation going through, the winter, there are going to be massive tour cancellations. There still may be some that could happen, outdoor concerts. I do think some, but I'm going to say 50% of that industry is going to be affected, maybe more. Yeah. And it's affected 100% right now. And
I think the summer touring is a shot. I do.
Yeah,
it really could be.
Bob Dylan canceled his tour, and I'm like, okay. For the question I had was, who the hell is still going to see Bob Dylan?
I didn't even know he was touring, but it does show that in a lot of cases, nobody really knows what to do, and there's no real guide in that industry. It's kind of interesting, because when we talk about sports, it's like, well, there's this commissioner saying what's going to happen, and there's that commissioner. There is nobody for the entertainment industry. Everybody's on their own, and right now it's sort of chaotic, and I feel bad because everybody's got money tied up in tickets. I probably have about $600 still tied up in tickets myself.
Yeah.
And, and you don't really know what's going to happen. We all would rather see the shows, like we would, but if we're not going to see the shows, we would like our money back. We would.
Yeah, I think eventually you'll get your money back, unless Ticketmaster is just going to rip off everybody. And if that's the case,
they just may say, "Hey, it's a credit. You got a credit."
Well, and I was just going to bring this up, and Adam in the chat brought this up.
Something here too about this, because I was just looking for this as you said this. I just got I'm on the board with the Philadelphia Folk Society,
okay,
which is a folk music society, and not that I've ever played folk music, not that they ever let me play at the folk festival because they said we weren't folk music enough. But anyway, I'm part of their board, and I help them, with different things from now and then. And they just put out a thing today that they're going to save the date, August 13th to 16th, 2020. But what they're doing is all virtual. Like it's a completely virtual festival, which is fine. I really hope by then, like I was saying my idea yesterday, and I talked to some more people about it yesterday as well, and the NHL actually about it yesterday, about the idea of like piping in crowd noise from actual crowds, which is totally doable. Like anybody who does gaming, I said, even if you just want to do it to people who have gaming headsets, and set up a spot where they can go on there and they can be heard just by like talking into the microphone, you could really get some really good stuff out of that.
Yeah, the problem is, how do you filter that? Because the people being heard, they could drop F-bombs and whatever.
Yeah, well, you do have you could do a couple second delay like we talked about. There is plenty of stuff out there that will, there's software out there that'll filter most of the bad stuff.
Yeah.
I will tell you that's a 50-50 proposition, because I was on Sirius, and I brought up that I had spoken to Anton Lundell, and he played in front of the fanless. He played a fanless game, and the crowd noise was brought up, and I got feedback on my Facebook from hockey fans that don't want that.
No,
they
but
feel like it'll be cheesy, and
you don't want it if there's crowd noise. You do want it if it's actual reaction to what's happening.
I know, I get it.
That's a very different thing.
You still may not want that either.
But imagine if you could, even if you could just set up your cell phone into like some kind of Zoom thing where you had your cell phone on, so it picks up the microphone. And granted, okay, you're saying people are cursing. I'm not talking about. I mean, people are talking all the time in the crowd, so you're talking about the volume. These things would be incredibly low. The combination of them would simulate what you have in the actual arena, but you wouldn't hear like everybody's little conversation, or if someone's dog barked or baby cried. You wouldn't hear that kind of stuff to the point that you would hear like the reaction to everybody at once, or everybody chanting at once, or everybody booing at once. Because think about all the conversations that go on in an actual arena that you won't hear.
Well, I will tell you this, and this could be the future. Friday, the lead singer of All Time Low is doing on his own virtual concert. He's doing an acoustic show, charging $10 a ticket, and all that money is going to go to their roadies because their roadies are not going to be working this year. And that's a nice idea. I think we're going to start to see more of that with these cancellations, and that makes sense.
Well, and an artist that Ak and I both know, me as a fan, him as somebody who he played with on the same bill, Jonathan Brooke.
Yep.
She's been doing shows on Facebook and Instagram with a PayPal link on there for people, basically like people throwing coins into the guitar case. But it's
right.
Like, you know, that's a way, because she's an independent. She prints her own CDs and everything else, so she doesn't have a record company behind her, and I think it's working for her. She's done like 7 or 8 of those, and it's a good thing. So
yeah, 'cause if you think about that industry, if they're not making money off of their releases, which they're really not, and they were making a lot of money off touring. Now, if you're a band that's been around 10, 20 years, you're fine. If you're one that this was going to be your big tour, or this is only like your second tour, you're hurting right now. And
well, I'm convinced that eventually
the way the money is made is a little different, though. Too, like, you know, we're talking the big tours you're talking about, like the Taylor Swifts and all those type of things that are the big summer tours. Those people are fine money wise. You know, they'll be fine.
Yes, they're fine.
The smaller tours you're talking about, yes, those people need to tour to support their band for sure because of the way the music industry is set up now. But a lot of those people are also doing independent stuff. And a lot of them don't have record labels and are selling their CDs, you know, making profits off of them, or selling their music and making profits off of them. Some of them, you know, some of them still are just giving away their music. I mean, what this really affects to me is that whole concept of, you know, we can give away our music and then for free, which is like something that a lot of bands have turned to. You know, Radiohead was the first to do it, I think. And it's like, and I get it, because like, it's actually funny because when you work with a record label like I did, you are doing that. I mean, the record, you're not seeing any money from the album sales until you get to like, I mean, we sold a couple 100,000 records, but when you're not seeing money until you get to like, you know, 500,000 records.
Right.
And so it's like, because all that's going to the record company and they're putting it into your, you know, into your various bills, and you're paying for your recording. The way it all works is that's how it goes, you know? So,
well, I'm
record company's like a bank that loans you money in a band.
I'm convinced that concerts will eventually come back. What I think may not come back, and I think Russ and I talked about this off air, is movie theaters, because all of a sudden now, you know, it started with the movie The Irishman, where Netflix, you know, didn't want to. It was in the theaters for a couple weeks, and then it went direct to video. And a lot of I think it's Universal is wanting to send movies directly to Netflix or streaming sites, and the movie theaters are basically saying, we're going to boycott all your Universal stuff because we need that advantage to keep our head above water. And if it's a case where they're going to start distributing their movies first run on video, then movie theaters, and I say this with no great joy because I worked at a movie theater for 10 years, then movie theaters are dead.
There is one thing, though. I did see that drive-ins are opening now.
Yes.
And so that is going to combat it. But there also are, you know, I know in Denmark they were doing drive-in concerts. I don't want that. I don't want to hear a concert on my radio in a car hundreds of feet away. Like that, to me, I might as well be at home.
Right.
Yeah, I get that too. I mean, I do think drive-in theaters. I mean,
drive-in theaters for a movie, great,
the perfect thing for them. Now, you know, there aren't that many drive-in theaters left. There are a few. We have a big. I have, you know, from all the parties we've had.
There's one 20 minutes south from me that's still open.
Oh, it's still open? Yeah. I mean, there's
New Jersey has a few.
There are a few in New Jersey. I think I know where that one you're talking about is.
Yeah, it's Vineland, New Jersey.
Yeah. We have a big, in the backyard, we have a big inflatable screen that's like 24 feet in diameter. It's giant. And we can show all kinds of stuff back there. And we've been having movies back there every Friday and Saturday night just for our family, with like putting a fire out there and stuff like that. We're having a blast.
Yeah.
But I think about if I put this on the front yard and stuff like that, we could have people drive up and they could watch something. You know, it would be the kind of thing that would be very easy to do. And I think that is like,
I mean, the shame of it all is they'd be watching like the Mighty Ducks, but
well, you know, here's the thing. So my daughter's graduation is virtual this year, right?
Or Turbo.
That kind of thing. So what I'm trying to do is perhaps, you know, project her graduation instead of off on television, projection on this 24-foot screen, and get some of her friends to come over in the yard, sit like apart from each other, and
nice.
graduate together. You know, So, what this whole thing is really about, and this is funny because it kind of goes into this tweet I put out today. One of my favorite people in the world is named John Roderick. He played for for a couple bands out west. He's the sort of part of the Seattle grunge scene, just a really smart guy, really like one of the most intelligent guys. And he tweeted out today that if it's in your power not to go back, don't go back. Don't fall for it. A return to normal is not what we want. Stay quarantined, reinvent how you live, reimagine the future. Even if you have to go back, reinvent. And I honestly think that that's really good advice. Like, I don't know that I want to return. I don't know that anyone should want to return to the exact normal we had before. I think that if we have,
I would agree with that.
Let's create a new normal. What we are is creative. We're really inventive people. Let's invent. And what this kind of stuff we're hearing now, like with these bands and stuff like that, they're inventing ways to get the music out. That's what we've always done. That's what we've always had to do.
See, I'm all for being innovative in terms of like the music scene. Anything that can get me the product that I like to listen to is fine.
Right.
But honestly, I want to go back to being able to go to an arena with 17,000 people and watch a hockey game or watch a concert. So
let's start up the show because it seems like the NHL now wants to be less innovative than they were before all this, and we could talk about that.
Not just the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's that. I mean, Mike, we all want to do that. I'm not saying that we don't want to do that, but I'm just saying that there's a lot about especially how people work in their jobs that can be changed. The way for us, this is kind of the same world we've always been in. But the people who live at home and work at home and write about hockey and stuff like that, things haven't changed that much. But when people are around us, you really see that the way jobs work in this country can be reinvented. Like
I'm not laughing at what you're saying, Eck. I'm just laughing at Funky Cold Zadino, who I want to welcome back to the chat because apparently he was out for a week or so with 19. So he's
I'm glad he's okay.
Okay. Yeah. But of course, in his typical Funky Cold fashion, he's like Sarah McLachlan and Phil Collins duet for Mike, sponsored by Tang.
Fantastic.
He hasn't lost anything off his fast.
Good that you're back. Good that you're healthy. We're worried about you last week, so I'm glad you're back. Ready? Here we go.
Let's go.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday. It is. It's Wednesday, May 13th, 2020.
I'm Michael Agello, and I'm sponsored by Tang.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. And isn't my backyard rink look good today? Coming.
Where's the box?
It's really coming up. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. Not to be confused with a podcast that Mike, Russ, and other people do on the weekends. Or that Russ does with other people. I mean, I'm just every day I look on Twitter and you guys are doing podcasts. Like, how many podcasts do you do, Mike? What's Toronto? There's a Toronto talk thing now.
I do the Leafs convo, which I post on.
I saw that. Yep.
I do that, and that's the Leafs. That's Leafs talk. I do off the post with Russ and Anthony, and I do our show 5 days a week. So yeah.
No, I know that's on. And I turn on the radio. I hear Russ yesterday morning. It's just like
I was on for a couple segments. I'm doing Stick to Hockey with Jason Rachitis later in the week, and then I do, like Mike said, on the weekend with him and Anthony.
No, it's good. I mean, it's a great show.
It keeps us rolling.
You guys just want to do a show without me. Admit it. That's what's going on.
Well, I mean, clearly.
I'm just keeping my vocal cords in shape.
Let's talk about the NHL, Mike and Russ and Russ and Mike.
Well, okay.
What are they? You're saying they're trying not to be innovative. What do you mean?
Yeah, I have a quote here. So they spoke to an infectious disease specialist about ways of modifying the game, or somebody did. Sorry, a reporter did, and they were talking about things like full face shields, no fighting, no scrums, all these kinds of things. And Bill Daly said, we would consider anything our infectious disease experts and advisors might recommend, but I'm not sure, given the circumstances of our game, that any dramatic modifications will be necessary. And that tells me that they don't want to change anything, but they may have to. And Bill Daly may have to change that attitude, because I get it. You want to keep it as simple and as close to what the product was before. But if you think about it, those scrums are stupid. They don't prove anything. They don't do anything. Guys get thrown, just throwing punches. Makes no sense. Fighting as well. I mean, look, there's going to be an occasional fight if something bubbles over, but you can avoid those scrums. You can avoid fights. And you know what? And you should, in this era right now that we're going through, if they're going to start up again, you should.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you should. And I know that people are going to say, whenever we talk about eliminating
and
fighting,
we like fighting. I'm not against it, but I'm just saying.
I'm for it too, but I think during this period of time, we need to really look at it differently,
Well, and the thing that, and I don't know whether Bettman went down this road in his comments over the last 24 hours, but I did see some things that sort of indicated this. But Adrian Wojnarowski, who covers the NBA for ESPN, it was a very curious thing about the Board of Governors meeting in the NBA, and I have a feeling this is going to be the way the other sports go. And I've said this on previous shows. He said there's positive about momentum about the NBA returning to play this season. Discussion included how players and the league will need to get comfortable with some positive tests for virus and not shutting down the league when it resumes. I am telling you right now, that's where the NHL is going to go. If they intend to shut down the league, if one person gets positive, do not bother starting it up again.
All right, so here's what I have. I have some Bettman stuff that just
okay.
Okay, so this was, I guess, some of this was during a town hall that the Sharks held.
Okay.
That Bettman was part of. So Bettman told members of this is coming to from Yahoo Sports, Sean Leahy. Leahy, sorry, not Leahy, obviously. I know Sean Leahy, sorry, I don't know why I said Leahy. During the virtual tour town hall hosted by the Sharks, Bettman told members of the team's business alliance they remains keen on awarding the Stanley Cup this season and flexibility when it comes to the schedule is necessary. This is what he says: I believe that the right time comes and the right circumstances, based on all options that we're considering and our ability to execute them, will get this season done. I don't want to sound Pollyanna, but canceling is too easy a solution. That means you stop working hard to do all the things that we're doing. And I ultimately believe that there will be an opportunity. So that's what he's saying. So I think that, and I said, what would we would like to bring a conclusion to this season. It's got to be fair. It's got to have integrity. And if we have to do it over the summer on some modified basis, then we'll do it on that basis. That's Bettman.
Well, I guess let's let Jan answer first on the daily comments, because he popped in at that point where Jan basically daily.
Yeah, I saw. I posted a blog on it yesterday with some comments.
What's your feeling on that?
Right. So the interesting part I've seen, right. So the fighting piece is not, I think a big deal during the regular season. The one piece I saw that was interesting is, how do you handle that, especially during the playoffs, right? When tensions get higher, there's not a frequency of a fight breaking out, but there is more of a likelihood of a possibility of a fight occurring, right? And how would you handle that, especially during playoff times when, battle for the cup and everything else, tensions do get ratcheted up, and the release point, as opposed to using stick work at times, is to have a fight. Even a one-on-one sometimes uses a spark to get a team going, or in other words, just to kind of relieve the tension. That's where I think you're going to have a bigger problem in terms of enacting these kind of rules. I mean, the other pieces in terms of the shields and the scrums and, the part about face-offs is going to, in my opinion, going to be the hardest thing, because you've been trained your whole life where if there's a draw,
right,
to go in and go get the puck and not necessarily sit it there. And now you almost have to retrain your mindset to go out and not go get it, which I think is going to be the hardest thing to try to do in a shorter period of time. I think fighting will be a little easier. I do think the draws is going to be the harder part to try to get it out.
The draws, Jan, because I didn't hear that part of it. But did Daly say anything about the face-offs?
No, he didn't say anything, but this is what people are talking about.
To me, face-offs, that's just ridiculous. Because honestly, I mean, you're going to have to fight for the puck with players. Like, that's just
right.
I mean,
yeah, I think you're right. I don't think
the face-off is no different than that, right? The face-off is just like two guys going after the puck at the same time.
Right, but see,
throughout the game, you can't not have that. It doesn't make it. There's no way you can have a sport with that.
Right, but see,
you can have quicker drops or whatever. You can drop the puck quickly. You can have all this stuff doesn't really matter. I think if they're wearing full, I'm sorry, Mike, but I'm sorry. I think if you're wearing full face masks, at least face shields. I know you're not blocking off it's not like an N95 mask, but at least I think that'll help with some of that.
Right, but this is something that is covered under the testing bubble, because honestly, if you've tested the players before the game and they've tested negative, then you shouldn't have any worry about close contact with them at face-offs or fights or
okay. There's one bugaboo with this, and I might as well bring it up because I saw it written about on Facebook where it happened to someone that they knew in real life. You could get a negative test, Mike, and that test could be faulty. And we're finding out now that there's quite a few faulty tests out there where somebody tests negative and then all of a sudden they pass away. So end of the day, that isn't going to be 100% guaranteed that nothing could happen just because you've gone negative. It's
Right.
not, because there's too many other things at play now, and the tests aren't reliable enough yet in all circumstances. Now, maybe by the time they go, they will be, but right now they're not.
They're not, and that's typical of all medical testing. There's always a margin of error, though. You have to realize that
Right.
it's not just this test, and it's not just this case.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing we have to be thankful for.
My lighting looks like I'm about to explode. I'm sorry. I got to like, I'm so red. What the hell is going on here?
You're turning into Trump.
No politics, please.
I know. No, he's just
I'm
orange.
not going to. I
The
wrote a
one
big
thing
political
that-
thing this morning on Facebook, and then I deleted it immediately after I posted it because I was
The
so.
one thing that the NHL should be thankful for is that there is a salary cap, like the NBA, and that the NHL is not going through this kabuki theater that Major League Baseball is going in right now, because it's very possible. The NHL, if all things are equal and they can guarantee as much as possible the health of their players, they can get the season done. But in Major League Baseball, it's very possible that they're going to shut down the season because the players and the owners are fighting over dollars and cents.
Right. And actually, we're not seeing NHL players really post that they're not wanting to play because they're worried about everything. We're seeing baseball players do it. Now, there's more of them, but we're not really seeing hockey players do it. And that's kind of interesting. I think they're more united than they are in baseball anyhow.
They are. And I think they legitimately want to come back. And I think, I think look, everybody wants to come back, but everybody wants to come back, but no, the hockey players have a little bit of a different attitude than baseball players in general. Like we've seen that before. Not that there are cool baseball players, but there are baseball players.
No, but I get it. But no, they do seem more united, and I think
that looks much better.
I think there's a better chance. But again, I also think them not talking about the Coyotes right now, when we had the removal of a front office person yesterday, had them leave. More is coming. The fact that he had another town hall and Bettman hasn't said anything about the Coyotes is weird. The fact that we still don't even know what type of tournament we're talking about. At this point, we should know. Like, I have to say, this is where the NHL has finally fallen behind. And on these two matters, it's dragged on way too long. Even the draft, it's dragged on.
I don't think you can say right now, Russ. I mean, how can you say right now?
With the draft, you certainly can. But
but as far as the tournament goes,
all of it, it's all dragging on too long, because we thought something would happen last week. It rolled into this week, where now it's Wednesday. We don't know about the Coyotes. We don't know about the draft. It's, that's taking too long.
Right.
It is.
Now they did report yesterday. Pierre LeBrun and Bob McKenzie reported that the PA and the NHL, that's why they moved up that return to play committee yesterday, that they're finalizing the parameters of phase 2. And it sounds like that, I would say probably in the next week to 2 weeks that will be implemented. Like we were talking about May 15th and players getting back, maybe from Europe or other places in North America to their home cities. I don't know if that's, going to happen now, or if that's going to happen when they implement this, but that's indicative of what Bettman said, because Bettman basically says we're not contemplating shutting down the season. That means they're going for it.
Sure, but again, they need to say what they're doing about the draft, and they're not saying, and that's taken all.
Here's something here's why I don't think they're saying it yet. The NHL, Bettman has something that he's very good at, and I'm a big fan of this too. When you run an organization or whatever. Not that you can always get this to work, but before you go public with anything, you got to all be on the same page.
Get your ducks in a row.
And it's like, and then so Bettman is a big thing. He's been big about that ever since he took over this league. So it's like, I think what's happening now is they know it's in June, but I think they know it. I think they know when it's going to be. But I think the idea here is there are still some people out there that they're trying to convince about this, just so they can say, listen, this is, if we can't convince you that it's a great idea because this GM or that GM is so used to doing it a certain way, at least we can make it so that you understand why we're doing it, and so that if you're asked about it, you're not going to say this is a terrible thing or whatever.
Why is the Coyotes thing taking so long? I get what you're saying on the other thing.
The Coyotes thing, I think this is my guess on this, is Bettman said, listen, we got a lot going on. This is crazy. Obviously, what's going on with the Coyotes is a bad deal. I'm going to give the Coyotes till X amount of time to fix this themselves as best as they can before I put in. And I think that's what's happening. That's my guess.
Okay.
Bettman loves to not be involved in something. Like he's very, which is really a good thing. That's a good thing as a president. Like if you can,
and I'll tell you what else I'll fold into this. I again last week saw a teaser that Seattle is close with their name, and yet we still don't know. Like this, I got to tell you, this in the history of sports, I have never seen a name take this long for any franchise.
So my guess is, again, he thinks it'll get buried in the fact that there's not that until the sport announces what it's doing. That's the news. That's all. But people, great Seattle as a name, but when are you playing? He doesn't want to answer the other questions right now yet. So I think that's what's happening.
So the one argument I'll give you though on the Arizona thing is, I think we all agree there is going to be at least some level of fines and potentially some level of forfeited draft picks, right? So while he's waiting for them to get their own ducks in a row, part of that needs to be the determination of where he's going to come down as a league from them, right? So you can't drag this on too long, especially if there's a decision made on a draft that could potentially be in 3 weeks.
Right.
They kind of drag it on even longer. And granted, there's some rumors that we may get some notice in terms of when the draft's going to be next week. But you have to make some kind of announcement, because if Arizona is going to attempt to make some kind of trade to recoup some lost assets, you need to make sure that it's publicly aware in terms of what the impact is to that team for the rest of the league.
And I agree with you that Bettman traditionally likes to get all of his ducks in a row, but I also think that this delay could also be the fact that there is a lot of pushback in the league. And some people just don't want the draft until after the season, and I think Bettman has clearly stated the reasons why he wants to do it and the benefits of having it in June when nothing else is going on. But I also think that like an owner like Jeff Molson in Montreal, with the Canadiens having 14 draft picks and them intending to use some of those draft picks to trade for players, that plan is shot now because they can't do it. So that's I'm not saying I have any inside information that that's the case, but I can understand why a big team like Montreal and other powerful teams,
all right,
like a team like Detroit.
I have breaking news. Hold on, I have breaking news. 16 minutes ago, and this is bad on Twitter. This looks bad. 16 minutes ago, the Seattle Kraken put up a post and said the people have spoken. Now, I don't know if that's a real check mark. I don't know if that's a real check mark or not. And it's got a picture of Henrik Lundqvist holding like a slushie or some sort of drink. And then it said, "Who would you rather see in goal for the Kraken? Show this poll." And it's like, Twitter's got to get rid of that. Like,
I am going on the record to say, if it is the Seattle Kraken, they are a freaking joke.
But
this is all fake.
It's a great name, but I don't think that's it either.
The Kraken is terrible.
I don't think. My backdrop was supposed to be the reveal. Kraken. But just kind of.
No, but this account has been around for days now. Apparently, I'm just noticing it, and they have a check mark. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, but Dart Guy had a check mark. So what the hell does that mean?
I know, but again,
there's ways of faking check marks. Let me look into this. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a great name. I don't think it would be.
But it's not real. We know it's not real. That's the funny thing.
Yeah, Seattle Sockeyes. I don't know about that one.
I don't like the Sockeyes. I mean, it's I like the Kraken. I like the Sasquatch, but Sasquatch isn't going to be.
Okay, just think about this. It's 511 days until there's actual hockey in Seattle, and they don't have a name.
True.
Yeah.
True.
But Russ, there was another story we were going to talk about. The criticism of the Toronto franchise in the NWHL is all because they didn't have a name. They're doing a public forum to try to get a name.
No, but some teams do that. That's
right,
fair.
right. And I'm saying, I wanted to lead into that story because there just seems to be a campaign of complaining against the NWHL to undermine them, and it's such pissy things like the team name, when like this PHPWA, have they? I don't know whether they seem organized at anything right now.
Here's their rule. Here's what they're doing for the 2021 season. There's an article up on SB Nation by Michelle J. It's interesting because they say for the second year they have restructured their regional training hubs to 5: New Hampshire, Minnesota, Calgary, Toronto, and Montreal, Buffalo and Tri-State were removed. Okay. Then they say people can play for the certain regions. Great. They have access to these gyms to work out and trainers and all that. Great. And then that's it. It always says that they're, going to play games when they play them around the country. It's not in a league format. What did they say? They're going to be the new structure provided. See, it's just they're playing those same things. They're going to be doing those gap games, and their big thing is when they're doing those games. Now it won't be like the same rosters, but you know what? It's not a league. There's not going to be standings. Nobody's getting paid. There's no talk of any of that. And so it's like, again, the wealthier of the women's hockey players can afford to be in that league because they make plenty of money doing a lot of other things. But again, this isn't good for the women's hockey sport. It is.
No, and all they've been doing is trashing the NWHL. I've read some articles about, well, the conditions in the NWHL are terrible. Like players had to go to the bathroom in a bucket and stuff. Yeah. It's just, my goodness. It's like, it's the only league that you got, and you're ripping it to shreds.
Yeah.
A bucket.
Yeah.
There was an old article that came out a couple of days ago. And by the way, Russ, in terms of your Kraken, that wasn't a blue check mark. It was a J.
That's a J. Okay.
I couldn't tell. Not a check mark.
All right. But I appreciate the fakeness of it. But it's like, come on, man.
So Hockey Insider is running this.
As I've always said, at every high school graduation, there's people out there saying, someday I'm going to be a fake person on Twitter.
We should have a name. We should know when the draft is. We should know about the Arizona thing. We don't know any of these things. We don't know what the NHL's new plan is yet. They are starting to lag a little bit in information. They are. I'm not disagreeing. I think it is because they have they have their set ways they want to do it, and they want. That's the problem right there. Boom. No, you said it.
I know. I'm not.
Is there set ways? And Bill Daly basically proved that by what he said when asked about that article and talking to disease experts. So clearly they are set in their ways, but you can't be set in your ways this year. This is a bad year to be set in your ways.
But you can maybe, I think, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. You can't be set. You should not be set in your ways this year. I agree with that 100%. And I think there's no question that they are working around the clock on nothing. And that's a tough thing, because I hate to say it, but the reality of that, you know what I mean by that is that they are sitting there losing their minds, wondering when they can announce the draft, wondering what they're going to do about the season, and yet watching the environment of the world change every 5 seconds. Right. So it's like, so they're sitting there saying, okay, well, we'll just wait till this. We'll wait till that. We'll wait till this. We'll wait till that. And I know that's what's happening. I've talked to people who work there in the office, and it's like they have so many different plans. I'd love to see a picture of a whiteboard. Someone told me there's a whiteboard with like 12 different whole concepts on it. I think that is just, that's what's happening in the NHL offices right now. There's no choice about it. And it's tough. They're in a weird spot, and I get it. So there is no normal.
If they didn't interrupt the season and it was before the start of a new season like Major League Baseball, I wouldn't even give them a hard time. But this is an interrupted season, and the risk that they run is like anything else. Fans have now not watched hockey for a couple of months and have gotten used to doing other things in their life. The longer it goes, the harder it is to drag them back to your sport. That's just a natural thing.
Now, and this is it's a little bit of a blip type story, but it deserves to be mentioned. The Portland Winterhawks of the WHL filed for bankruptcy. Now that was more, apparently, this is according to Bob McKenzie, that was more because of the fact that the owner of the Winterhawks is involved in oil and gas, and obviously those industries right now are being hit hard because the prices have dropped like a stone. But this could be the first of a number of stories.
Oh no, it's going to be. I think it's going to happen more. I don't know if it'll happen more in like the WHL, OHL. It's definitely going to happen in the AHL. Right. Teams. This is something now. Again, like with the Winterhawks, they were amazingly successful. Like they've had some great players come out of there. The problem is now with a lot of these lower league teams, how much money are the parent clubs willing to do to keep them afloat?
Right.
And we're now probably going to find out it's not as much as we thought it would be because their revenues are down. And so now, yeah, I could see shrinkage of a lot of these leagues, AHL, all of them.
Yeah.
I could see there being some shrinkage coming out of this.
There's going to be contraction. There's no question about that.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of these guys probably, let's use the WHL as an example. They may have been making some money, but they weren't making big money, obviously. And so their other business was basically helping to keep afloat. And then when that other business wasn't great, things weren't great. And I think we're going to find out there's a lot of that going on.
My daughter just sent me the video of me almost sitting on Panda yesterday.
Oh, good. We need to get that.
I will put that out at some point.
Yeah, post that as a GIF.
And she was sitting here like staring at me, and I was like, "Why is she staring at me?" And she waited till the second round. She just jumped up.
Excellent. That's fantastic. All right.
Before we get into Team USA, I wrote about this, and I won't dwell on it because I'm sure it's still an.
Where were you when this happened? I remember.
Not the where were you, because I know where I was. I
know who I was texting.
Yeah, you were texting me while I was on my front porch ready to jump off of it. But I knew what was going to happen, because once Nathan Horton scored or to make it 4-2, I knew they were going to lose. No, I took a different aspect of that of the event.
We're talking about that. We should say what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. The event we're talking about is Game 7 of the 2013 first round series between the Leafs and the Bruins, which the Leafs famously had a 4-1 lead with a little over 11 minutes to go, blew the 3-goal lead and lost in overtime. Right. And I call it an epic fail. It could be one of the greatest collapses in team sport history in one game. But I look at it all. I took a different aspect, a different look at it today, because honestly, I think it's almost as much a miracle that team, the way they were constructed, got a 3-goal lead in Game 7 against Boston, and not to say that it negates the fact that they blew the lead and lost the game. But if you look at that team, and you check out my article on Hockey Buzz. Not only they had lost their number one center in Tyler Bozak in Game 5, so they were playing Joe Colburn in place of him, and having to play Mikhail Grabovski, who had a terrible year, and a relative rookie in Nazem Kadri up the middle. Their big players, Kessel, Van Riemsdyk, Cody Franzen scored 2 goals for them. Their big players came through, but at the end of the game, Carlisle. Well, he played basically 9 forwards that game. Leo Komarov, who was a rookie at that point, he only played him 8 minutes. And Komarov is a good defensive player. He didn't put him out late in regulation. He had James Van Riemsdyk out there in a situation where the Rask had been pulled. And we all know that James Van Riemsdyk is a negative in terms of a defensive player. He's a great offensive player, but defensively, he shouldn't be out there when the goalie is pulled. And it was just, I think Carlisle is a good coach, but he didn't have a ton to work with at that point. Reimer let him down in Game 7, but I'm still shocked they got that 4-1 lead based on where that team was.
This is a perfect storm for Mike, because
I remember.
No, but he gets to talk about Reimer again. He gets to praise Randy Carlisle again. He gets to rip James Van Riemsdyk again, and he gets to talk about a loss that he probably felt was coming anyhow. This is perfect.
I remember very well, before, Mike, it's funny you say this, because I do remember texting you before the game, and you being incredibly negative, which is one of the reasons that for all the reasons you just brought up. You're like, why they shouldn't even be in this game? They're not going to win this game. They're losing all these players. They're playing Coburn. I remember all this stuff. And so specifically, it's just funny. And that's why I was texting you. I'm like, hey, Mike, look, they're going to win. It's this is incredible. I was trying to be come on, the things don't always happen.
Yeah, and Russ, I think I looked at the text and I saw the word win just as John Forsland was, or Jim Houston was saying, Horton scores. So it's I wish I could
go back. I wish I could screenshot that whole thing.
It was synced. It was synced up. But no, I like I said, I looked at that game. I was dumbstruck that they were up 4-1 in the third period. And especially with a Boston team that had won the cup 2 years before, got upset in the first round in 2012, and that year they added Jágr at the deadline. Rask had an unbelievable year as the starter, taking over from Tim Thomas, and they still had Lucic and Horton on top of the Krejci
Right.
and Sagan and Marchand and Bergeron. I mean, that was a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I-
great team.
And the Leafs were playing Ryan O'Byrne on their defense.
All right, so I do have breaking news from yesterday, but I didn't notice it. Adrian Data reported that Arizona is emerging as the top candidate as the NHL playoff hub. I could see that because then it would give that organization money, and it would give them an infusion of money.
Interesting, you know, interesting.
One of the hubs.
And
I mentioned that in my blog today. It wasn't Data who reported originally. He got it from somebody at the Arizona Republic.
Okay, well, he didn't write it that way.
Yeah, no, the Arizona Republic reported that they're opening their stay-at-home expires this weekend, which includes all sports facilities,
Right.
which is why they now are being able to be considered.
so are they
as a
actually
potential hub.
allowing concerts in Arizona right now?
I mean, allegedly, I guess they could, but at the end of the day, this does make sense to make them one of the candidates because they could use the money, and this will get them some money because if nothing else, the teams are going to have to pay for the ice.
It also is a very, like, if you've been there, it's a very, it's a very perfect kind of scenario for what they're talking about. It's very Olympic Village like. You could close it off to a couple hotels that are there, and little, like, the shopping area there could just be closed off for just the players and the people who are working on it. It's also,
you don't have to worry about fans going. Wait, hold on. Heck, you don't have to worry about fans going there.
Wow.
And there's a lot of golf courses, so
very, very hot too, which is, and then for those people who think that, the summer might be, the best thing to knock this thing out sometimes, because it definitely does not react well to heat. So, I mean, there's some things there. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Why not? Why not?
Ryan Rishok from TSN has wrote about that Edmonton is putting together a proposal for try to be considered one of the hubs as well. That they're working on a massive proposal to try to be considered.
I think all the teams or all the locations, because I know Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and Toronto have all been involved in pitching the NHL. They all have a problem because of the cross-border situation. So I think one of them is probably going to get it because they have to include somebody in Canada. But like I said, it's going to have to be in concert with the Canadian government and the U.S. government giving them preferential treatment to be able to cross.
They will. Don't think the U.S. government won't. At least, I mean,
I think the U.S. government will.
I mean, the U.S. government. I mean, I think one of the reasons that we haven't seen the NHL canceled, honestly, is because of Trump's meeting with all the owners, with all the presidents of the league, saying we really want sports to be back. We really think it's an important part of our economy. I think it's important for people to have sports.
Right. He may limit it to the U.S. We don't know what the next part of that sentence is. That's the only thing.
That's interesting. Would Trump be like, oh, yeah, sure, go play in Canada?
I mean, is it outrageous? I mean,
that's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
Think of that. That's actually interesting. I think they should just play in New Zealand. That's what I think. It seems to be the safest place to do anything right now. Or South Korea. I don't know. There's places you could definitely go. I think that would be good. But anyway,
go to Fight Island.
Let's go on to the U.S. Olympic team because I want to get to today. Because I'm putting it out there that I do believe that this team is better than Team Canada, who we discussed yesterday, and I think this team would be favored in my book to win the gold medal in the Olympics in China or Calgary, wherever they're going to be. I heard Calgary yesterday. Anyway, so here's my 10 definites on the forwards. This is a heck of a group, and anyone who watched the North American team in the World Cup of Hockey remembers that might have been one of the best teams that ever played together. And a lot of these guys were on that team. So you have Austin Matthews, Patrick Kane, Johnny Gaudreau, Jack Eichel, Jake Getzel, Brock Besser, Brady Tkachuk, Chris Kreider, Blake Wheeler, and Jack Hughes. Those are my 10 definite.
Jack Hughes is not a definite.
I agree with him. No way. Not close to a definite yet.
I don't think he's a definite, but I think there's a chance.
He's in the mix, but I don't think he's a definite.
There's a chance.
My own personal opinion, I would agree with what you're saying, Mike and Jan. Talking to people at USA Hockey about this, because I did talk to people at USA Hockey about this too, which is always important because these people have their own. I've always said many times there's an NHL career and there's a world hockey career. They're completely different. USA Hockey looks at Jack Hughes in a really positive way to the point
I think he's a phenomenal talent, but I mean,
as they're one of the best players ever to be out of America, they would find a way, from what I was told, unless he's just struggling completely, he would be on the team. He
would have to have a big second year with the Devils, establishing himself as somebody in the NHL who's, the expectations that we have of him. match his talent. And if that happens, then yeah. But I think right now, coming off a rookie year that he started slow, that I think right now he's a possible, not a definite.
Well, I'm going to put this up here so it'd be easier for us to all see.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Here's my definite there. So I did have Brady Tkachuk and not Matthew Tkachuk as a definite. I mean they're both the Tkachuks.
I think Matthew should replace Jack Hughes as the definite.
Yep.
I mean I wouldn't do either yet because again you want considerable speed if it's Olympic ice. So I wouldn't necessarily do that yet.
Which is why Dylan Larkin would be a guy that if you're going to go for speed would be the guy you'd end up picking because
he could.
Here's six possibles for offense right after that, and Dylan Larkin is definitely, and I think he's very as close as you can get.
And it's Jason Zuckerek.
Yeah, it's Jason.
I corrected it. I said, like John Tucker. Wait, is he?
Sorry, I'll fix that. All right, so yeah, but anyway,
there's not much to argue here other than who's the regular and who maybe doesn't make it, but all of these guys will be in play.
When you look at 16 forwards, they probably would bring 16 forwards with them.
Well, it's a question of what the size of the roster is. I think the size of the roster is 23. If it's 25, they could bring 3 goalies, probably 8 defensemen, and 14 forwards.
Let me just fix this while we're here.
And I kind of from that list below.
25, 22 skaters, 3 goalies.
I would kind of pick I think Miller is going to get consideration just to kind of the way he played in the competition a couple of years ago, the under 23, the kind of tournament he had. I could see he getting consideration, and I personally am a huge Kyle Connor fan.
Yeah, see,
I think Connor's going to get squeezed on this, though. I do.
But in terms of scoring, you look what he's done in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I should have Tyler Johnson on this list.
No.
I think so.
The thing that I saw with Team Canada, and like I said, you looked at the 8 or 9 definites that we had. They were all centers or guys who could convert from center to wing, and they really had not many power forward type wingers. Now, some of them are not fast enough to be on the Olympic ice. Like a guy like Mark Stone, if it's NHL ice, probably would fit.
If it's NHL ice, he'd make it.
Now, Kreider has got the speed and he's got that power forward ability, so I would think he's a definite.
And he's got this is a very young team.
My only question with that list, Beck, is who is your 4th line checking type center if you need one?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if you're going to have a checking type center.
The way you have
how about penalty kill?
Last 2 Olympics, and the last I'm not going to count because the last one was not NHL players, but the last 2 that they had in 2010 and 2014.
Well, right. I'll tell you, for penalty kill, I would put Eichel on there. I would put Blake Wheeler on there. Wheeler's a great penalty killer.
Yeah.
So that's 2 right there.
Yeah, 2010 and 2014, the U.S. decided that they would just go straight up with players that the best players, and they would just figure it out. Like they decided that they would rather have 4 lines, that they would rotate 4 lines.
Yeah, I could see that being the case
of equal strength, and and these guys just have to be more responsible defensively. I mean, I'm actually one of these people that thinks Austin Matthews can be good defensively if he wants to be. I'm not saying he should.
He is. He is. He's just not a penalty killer.
Yeah, I think he's a competitive guy. Wheeler's competitive enough. Jack competitive enough. I think I don't know used defensively very well. Jake Getzel's not terrible. Well, he's pretty bad.
No, Eichel can penalty kill, and so can Wheeler. That's definite to me.
I want Matthew Tkachuk on this team because I want him to get into Drew Doughty's head when the U.S. plays Canada.
Yeah, but Brady's a better skater than Matthew. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
I think we can both make it.
Defensively,
my
definites are Werenski, Jones, Hughes, Carlson, Jacob Slavin, and McAvoy.
See, and I'll tell you, I think as much as I like Slavin and McAvoy, I think Fox is going to put a tremendous push on both of those guys. I think the others are locks.
Yeah.
But I think Fox will push those other guys. I don't think Gostisbehere has a shot in hell.
Yeah.
I didn't there yesterday when I talked. I didn't bring him up, but when I talked to the USA people at the end of the day, they said he did. So that's why I put him on.
I would be shocked if Gostisbehere makes the team. I think Fox has got a definitive shot. I would say Krug has an outside shot,
and
I could see D'Angelo getting a look also.
I think Hughes. I think they always like a veteran player. I don't know how. Like, we'll see what Suter would be like in 2 years, but a guy who's been around and he can play offensively and defensively.
Totally.
I still think, as I said yesterday, I think that Brett Pesce would be somebody that might. You got to remember, it's not always going to be like the best 8 offensive defensemen, and the fact that he pairs up with Slavin. Then you would have Werenski and Jones as one pairing, and Slavin and Pesce as another pairing.
Right.
And when it comes to these guys getting together and like a training camp quickly before an Olympics, them having rapport with each other is extremely important.
Well, all right. So along those lines, as much as I like D'Angelo, if Fox and Lindgren have another year like they've had,
Sure.
I could see Ryan Lindgren being that guy, because you could grit your teeth, Jan, but again, every team has a Ken Morrow on it, and Ryan Lindgren does bring a physical nature that maybe only one of the other defensemen on the whole team does.
The only caveat to that is the ice surface, right? If it's the bigger ice surface, he's going to be adversely impacted. If it's a regular ice surface, I agree with you. But
I don't think
that's the only reason why I'm gritting my teeth.
He is not a bad skater. I disagree. He has played on international ice before.
Yeah, I know. He's played with Fox. They've been paired. I know.
Seth Jones and to a lesser extent Carlson and maybe Slavin provide that physicality. But the thing is, a D'Angelo or a Krug, you can't really make a case for them, even though like both of them are good power play defensemen, because you've got Carlson and you've got Werenski. So they provide a skill set that's already satisfied. You want somebody who can be a defensive defenseman but still mobile enough, and that's why a guy like Pesce would make sense.
Yeah,
D'Angelo would bring that physical quotient also, as we've seen, because he's definitely willing to take the body and hit.
D'Angelo and Gaspia were at it after talking to USA Hockey, both who said that, especially in D'Angelo's case, he's one of those guys also that USA Hockey really likes. Like, and he's obviously had like Werenski. There was a time where D'Angelo was the guy on their power play. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that the two of them sort of, they see him as that guy now again, possibly. The one thing I brought up to them, and I don't think that they particularly have a strong defensive-minded defenseman on this team. This is
right.
Well, no, and that's why we brought up these other names, because
they're legitimate. And I think that's where Suter does come into play. I think that Suter.
I think he's too old. I don't think he'll come into play.
That's why I say. That's why I'm saying Pesce.
Oh, he's age with Suter. He's so smart. I mean, having that experience and having that. I don't know.
It's just 2 years from now, Ek.
Yeah, but the Suter name, USA Hockey.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter, I think, guys.
Look, it may matter as far as having the name. In 2 years, it may not matter if he doesn't look good on the ice. It won't matter what his name is.
Shown any signs he doesn't really look good on the ice anymore.
You're projecting 2 years in the future. They're playing this guy 28 minutes a night.
I'll give you.
We're looking like 16, 17 months. It's not.
I'll give you 2 more names that could be factors. One is Cam Fowler, very good mobility and good offense, and the other, if you're talking about physicality, how about Jacob Trouba?
Yeah, Trouba would have a chance too. Absolutely.
Trouba, he's not liked among the USA Hockey people. I don't know why. I brought that name up too.
He's played on a lot of their teams, though.
He has, I know, and that's what kind of surprised me. Hannafin as well, though, another person that.
Yeah, he's sort of sloughed off a little bit lately.
But I think that, and I said, Gaspier's obviously having a terrible season this year for the Flyers, but the feeling is, he's a defenseman, and Gaspier really isn't a defenseman. That's the bottom line with him.
He's not going to make it. I don't care what they say.
He really should consider, even I think if ever a guy should maybe consider moving the wing, it might be Gaspier. He really just has he really is just a winger, in my opinion.
And Flamester in the chat, I got to disagree. Trouba is not slow.
No, he's not slow.
Nope.
No, he's not slow.
He's not slow.
You can't be a slow top pairing guy in this league.
Yeah.
He does have some experience.
He does.
So moving to the goalie spots here. 4 goalies. This is what I was told. 4 goalies, 2 spots. Just like in Canada. Ben Bishop, Hellebuck, Gibson, and Jonathan Quick.
They always carry 3, so I think there's going to be 3.
Yeah, but 2. Obviously 2 starting spots, but there will be 3 carried. And I said, I'm gonna put, and they said, yeah, you got to put Quick back on that list because Quick had he would come to a camp and they would bring Quick to the camp, and he has shown he's such a history, and and the way he was playing with the LA down the stretch, people were like, he was definitely playing like the old Jonathan Quick again. If he's got he's better than the other 3. Like in my mind,
my number 1 right now is Hellebuck.
Yep.
Absolutely not. And I'll tell you why. I'm gonna. No, I'm not against. I mean,
Wrong.
Here's the thing about wrong. Here's my thing about goalies in the Olympics. Is this: you need to have guys who have shown that they can play not only at a higher level but can play under pressure in the playoffs really well. And Hellebuyck has been disappointing to me in the playoffs. And he also, when you saw last year, I really wanted to see how he looked in the All-Star game. I know most goalies look terrible in All-Star games. Okay, but he looked particularly terrible in an All-Star game, and the reason is because he is like kind of like the other Winnipeg guy that Steve Mason before him, a goalie who depends so much on his size, so much on positioning, but not super quick. And if you have sharpshooters, there's openings.
Now, granted, this was 4 years ago, but if you remember on that under 25 team, the Team North America and the World Cup, when Murray got hurt and Gibson went in, Gibson did not look particularly good. Now, he's a better goaltender than that. We all know that.
He has not looked good, Mike.
What's that?
How many game sevens has Gibson let that team down for? It's like,
well, my arguments on Hellebuyck is A, he played on the World Junior team and played well. B, he carried Winnipeg to a Stanley Cup Finals. And C, look at what he's done this year. That team has been horrific in front of him defensively. Horrific.
He is the most
which is why he's gotten Vezina Trophy candidacy, and some people have put him for the Hart Trophy earlier in the year because of how well he played.
But this is the thing.
He's the MVP of that team. There's no
choice. Right now, both Bishop and Quick are 33 years old. We're talking about them being 35.
I know. I'm going to give you the nightmare scenario for your list, Ek. Here's your nightmare scenario. So going into, let's say the NHL finishes out this season, going into next season, we don't know what's going to happen with college hockey. So maybe Spencer Knight then all of a sudden signs with the Panthers. He becomes their backup. Bob stinks again. Spencer Knight's the goalie. Spencer Knight is hot going into that period of time. Spencer Knight will be on the team because he already had a 931 in college this year. USA Hockey has done this time and time again.
Yeah.
And he is dubbed as the goalie of the future. I could see this path happening.
I'll give you two younger goalies who could be that number 3 if they don't go with a Quick or Bishop as the third goalie.
Yeah.
One is Thatcher Demko for Vancouver.
Yeah.
The other is Cal Peterson for LA.
Yep. There are other ones.
Peterson's definitely on their fast track. They also told me that that Campbell in Toronto is a guy.
Yeah, he's a backup. I mean, he's a good backup, but he's a backup.
He has the history with Team USA. So they anybody that does not much time with Team USA, they'll give him a look. But
Spencer Knight had a good history with him too, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, the
young guy though.
I know he's old, and I'm not saying that he would be. I think
the problem with Quick and Bishop is they're too old.
They're too old. Right? I agree with that. I don't say but I also the problem with the other two with Hellebuyck and Gibson is they're too inconsistent for me, and it's like you get.
Hellebuyck is not inconsistent. I don't know where you're getting them from.
He had a bad year a couple of years ago, but he had a rebound tremendous.
This year, even. I mean, I know he's been great this year at times, but even this year, there have been times.
You talked to, if we could get Peter on the show, he basically has said that Hellebuyck was a candidate for the Hart Trophy, and I don't think he was
talking. Defense stinks.
I'm not. I mean, their defense stinks, and I'm not. And I'll take that. I'll retract that statement. But I have seen in his career at times he's been inconsistent. I didn't like the way
every goalie.
I didn't like the way he reacted to the fast.
Connor Hellebuyck's GSAA is a 22.
What? Sorry, go ahead.
Connor Hellebuyck's GSAA is a 22. It's off the charts. 2 years ago, it was a 23. He did have one off year in between, but he's not inconsistent. He's really not.
Yeah, last year was not a good year for him, but he did bounce.
I'm not going to tell you on the inconsistency. I'm just going to say
I'm not. I don't know. There's something
when your defense has. And Neil Pionk is defensively challenged. He's a good offensive defense. But when your top 4 defense in Winnipeg has Neil Pionk and Dmitry Kulikov in it, and you have a 2.57 and a 922 save percentage, you should be in the Vezina running, and he is, and he should be.
Yeah, I mean,
I remember Hellebuyck's averaging over 60 games a year. I mean, He had already played 58 this year. He played 63 last year and 67 2 years ago. They're playing him a tremendous amount.
No, they play him too much, and they play him all the time. And his style suits that kind of. He's not an aggressive goalie. He's not like an overly. He's a let the puck hit him type goalie, which is fine and works really well on some levels of the NHL. But I don't know that it works well when you've got the likes of like a Team Canada shooting against you.
Oh, it would work. It would work.
Now I don't know if you want to do this, Zach, or if for a show, the next few shows, to put together lists for say Sweden, Finland, and
I will. And I think it is interesting to do. Now the weaknesses in the U.S., the strengths of the USA team. I think is their defense. I think it starts with their defense. I think their defense is incredibly strong. And even though they don't have like that defensive defenseman, they have such talent and skill. Their speed is incredibly. I mean, they're incredibly fast. Most of these teams will be incredibly fast, but they are particularly fast. I mean, when you have Hughes, Kane, and Gaudreau on a team, like that's just insane. Really is. I mean, the speed that it's, and I think their inexperience is a weakness of them. I mean, this is an inexperience in the Olympics. A lot of these guys will be in their first Olympic Games. The Olympics is a big stage. It's different.
Which traditionally USA Hockey, what they do is they'll plant in one or two veteran guys. Like I said, 2010 was Chris Drury.
Wheeler is the veteran guy,
right? Maybe one other.
Wheeler and Kreider.
Kreider's a veteron too. Yeah,
and
Oshie could be too.
Oshie could be too. I asked about that yesterday too because I said, don't you want to bring him just in case because you have the shootouts and all that stuff, and they didn't think so.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's a tough one to say. I mean, I think goaltending is another potential weakness of this team.
I honestly think that I'll catch flack for this. I honestly think that the U.S. goaltending is as good as Canada's. I
think it is. I thought Canada's goaltending was potentially their weakness as well. And I really think that the one thing that when you look at Finland and Sweden and Russia, their goaltending is way better in general. I mean, they have,
but at least Russia, their defense is nowhere close to being as good as Canada or the U.S.
Right. And Sweden has an amazing defense.
Yes,
I'm not sure. Honestly, I think if you were going to ask me basis of goaltending, I don't think there's any country that has an edge right now. I really don't.
I think Russia does.
Russia's
got a really good goaltending crew, I think.
Yeah, I think they just. I mean, I think
you're do it on a strength of Vasilevsky. All right, but
I think Vasilevsky's the best goalie out there.
I might give him a slight edge. I don't think it's a massive edge.
I also think Bob's.
Bob's got to prove himself again, Eck.
Not when he gets in that. Some goalies are different in different situations. Like Quick's playing better, but then I talked to USA Hockey about it. I'm like, you're just going to base this on the fact he's played a little bit better this year because I was trying to be as negative as I could, and I was like, so this you're just going to base this on USA Hockey this year, and they said no, the fact that Quick's playing better this year because of the Kings played better, and he said when Quick gets into competitive games. He is really good still. That's what they saw out of that. They saw that the Kings were playing non-competitive hockey. Yeah, Quick's kind of all over the map. The competitive juices start flowing. Quick still has it.
I'll tell you, for Russia, I can envision it being Vasilevsky, like Khudobin and Askarov, and Bob being. If Bob has another year like he's having this year, he's not going to make the team.
That would be surprising. I would be really surprised for that. I would be. I think it's going to be it'll be a great tournament. It would really be fun. It would, and I think that I really hope it happens. If it doesn't happen, I want the I want the World Cup of Hockey to come back, but I want it to come back like more in the Canada Cup format than it did before.
Well, the World Cup of Hockey was going to come back.
I know.
So,
but I want it back.
They don't really talk about that. They actually haven't said a word about that.
It's not going to happen until they have a new CBA because I think the only way the World Cup of Hockey comes back is if they come to some sort of agreement about the Olympics, and they won't come back with an agreement on the Olympics unless the IOC agrees to make the concessions that the NHL.
No, but the World Cup of Hockey is already in motion, Mike.
I know it's in motion, but there hasn't been a sign off on it by the PA because they're linking the World Cup of Hockey to the Olympics.
Okay.
Yeah.
They get hockey related revenue out of the World Cup of Hockey. They get nothing out of the Olympics, and the NHL wants something from the IOC on the Olympics.
This is all true. I do agree with that. I think, but if it comes back, I mean, watching a bunch of like Canada Cups lately and Rendezvous series and stuff like that, all these things have been replayed a lot, and they're fun to watch. They are really fun to watch. Don't you think that the World Cup of Hockey needs to be more? It doesn't need a Team Europe is a bad thing.
It is a bad thing. Again, it's interesting because I just saw Sportsnet is replaying the World Cup of Hockey, and we all love the young team, and the fact that they're doing away with that makes no sense. That's what actually that put a massive spark into that tournament, even though I didn't like the way it went out. But for the time that they played, that was a massive spark, and I don't know if they're going to get the same kind of spark. You're definitely not getting it out of Team Europe.
No, I mean it depends. I think if you go to the Olympics or not. Like if you go to the Olympics, then I'm all for the under-23 team playing.
I mean, are they? I mean,
otherwise, you need to see these guys play on their countries.
That's the thing, though. I think enough good players are coming out of Switzerland and Slovakia and the Czech Republic that they would have viable teams. There was some laziness there in the World Cup of Hockey to lump in Slovenia, Slovakia, so you can get Anze Kopitar in the tournament. It's like, I'm sorry, there's not enough good players in Slovenia, so he's going to have to sit in Slovenia while everybody else is playing.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, I really think that they should view it more like the World Cup in soccer and have like a play-in tournament for those teams and have a situation where you have, and I know this is an NHL event and it's not, that's how it goes. But the only thing, I mean, I love the under-23 team, but I do think that if we don't get a chance to see like, some of those young players play with like some of the great players for their country in the Olympics, we need to see it at the World Cup of Hockey. It's the only place we're going to see it. I think. I mean, that's just, I was looking over the Russian team too quickly, just.
I was gonna say let's save it for other shows.
We'll save it for the other show, but a little hint there: they are not the Russian team that you think they are. Like they are definitely.
Their defense is terrible.
They don't have a great
beyond their top six forwards. They fall off really fast. I mean, really heavy.
Well, I'll put together a Russian team. I think could probably be good.
But like I said, Sweden is going to be strong. Sweden will have a very good team.
It'll be good.
Finland. I'm worried about their goaltending.
Yeah,
they went into a goaltending lull. They went through the heights with Pekka Rinne, and for like 10 years they were owning all the goaltending in the NHL. Who's the Finnish goaltenders? Like that to me has fallen off tremendously.
True. All right, well, we'll get into this tomorrow. We'll talk about the Russian.
Rask obviously will be the number one guy if he's 50.
Yeah, he's old, but the way Finland, what Finland always has going for them is that system that they teach them since they're children, and they all can play that. It doesn't matter who you are.
Well, you know who'll be the number one, Russ. It's Boston's favorite goalie, Tuukka Rask.
I just said that, Mike.
We just did that.
I literally just said that.
That's okay. Sometimes we all drift off.
I was looking something up. I wasn't listening to you.
Let's just sign off now.
Let's just sign off. Remember, folks, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.